Be honest for a second. Do you ever think I can't win with my wife? If I try to lead, I'm controlling. If I set a boundary, I'm abusive. If I pull back, I'm weak and checked out. You feel like no matter what you do, you're always wrong. You know scripture says the husband is the head of the wife. You know the church teaches you must lead your family. But you also know you're called to love her as Christ loved the church, not bully her. So you're stuck. If you lead, you're the bad guy. If you don't lead, you hate yourself. If that's you, stay with me. In this video, I'm going to show you how a Catholic husband can lead without being a tyrant and without becoming a doormat. And in a few minutes, I'll give you a sentence you can use the next time she says you're just being controlling. So don't click away. Here's the question I'm responding to today. Hi, Will. I'm a Catholic husband, and every time I try to lead my wife, she says I'm being controlling or acting like a patriarch. If I back off, our life gets chaotic. If I push, she gets angry and says I'm abusing my authority. I don't want to be a tyrant, but I also don't want to be a doormat. What does Catholic headship actually look like in practice? Well, if that sounds like your living room on a Tuesday night, this is for you. First thing, you're not crazy for wanting to lead. The Catholic Church is crystal clear on this. St. Paul says the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church. The Catechism of Trent says the husband has the duty to govern the family, and the wife has the duty to be subject to him. And it also says the husband must treat his wife generously and honorably. So, headship is not some online meme. It's Catholic doctrine, but Catholic doctrine always guards against two extremes. Tyranny on one side, abdication on the other. Christ is not a tyrant. Christ is also not a doormat. So, your job as a husband is to lead like Christ. Not like a dictator, not like a nice guy who never says no. Like Christ. In a minute, I'll show you how to tell whether your leadership looks more like Christ or more like a tantrum in a Bible costume. Let's start with this word that gets thrown around so much. Controlling. Sometimes she calls you controlling because you actually are. Sometimes she calls you controlling because for years you were passive, dumping decisions on her, and now you're trying to swing from zero to patriarch overnight. And sometimes she calls you controlling because she has absorbed the modern lie that any real masculine authority is abuse. Often, it's all three mixed together. So, instead of arguing about the label, you have to look honestly at the pattern. Ask yourself, when I lead, what does it actually look like? Do I bark orders? Do I talk down to her? Do I make everything my way or the highway? Do I only lead when I'm afraid, hurt, or angry? If so, from her point of view, it probably does feel controlling. On the other hand, have I spent years being checked out, avoiding hard conversations, letting her carry the mental load for the home? And now I suddenly announce I'm the head, submit. Headship without a history of sacrifice and consistency feels fake. So if you're still watching and feeling a bit uncomfortable, good. That discomfort is where change starts. Most men in this situation bounce between two traps. Trap 1, tyrant mode. You discover Ephesians 5 and a few red pill clips, and you think, right, I'm in charge now. Everyone fall in line. You tighten your grip. You raise your voice. You threaten. You sulk. You might even wave Bible verses like a weapon. That isn't Catholic headship. That's insecurity. Trap 2, doormat mode. You're so afraid to be controlling that you surrender everything. She decides everything. You avoid conflict. You tell yourself you're being patient and loving. But really, you're just scared. You're not protecting her. You're hiding from her. Women don't flourish under tyrants, but they also don't flourish under soft, silent men who refuse to ever hold a line. The church talks about the mutual molding of husband and wife. That means she should influence you, and you should influence her. But the final responsibility for the direction still lands on you. As the head, you cannot outsource that. Even if she yells, even if she cries, you must listen. You must be gentle. But in the end, you will answer to Christ for how you led this family. Not her. So the question is not, will someone lead? The question is, will you lead badly? Will she lead badly? Or will you lead well? In a second, I'll show you where leading well begins. Before you worry about your wife getting under your authority, you need to get under Christ's. If you're not obeying Christ, you have no business lecturing your wife about obedience. So ask yourself, am I in a state of grace? Do I go to confession regularly? Do I pray every day? Do I lead any family prayer? Do I protect Sunday Mass as non-negotiable? Do I avoid pornography? Do I avoid drunkenness? Do I avoid laziness? If the honest answer is no, then your wife may be resisting not headship as such, but your headship, because your life doesn't look like Christ's. The Catechism of Trent says husbands must love their wives as Christ loved the church, and must treat them generously and honorably. You can't fake that. So the first step in getting your wife to trust your leadership is to become the sort of man she'd be foolish not to trust. That starts in the confessional and in your daily habits, not in an argument with your wife. If you feel convicted right now, don't click away. Conviction is a gift from God. Use it. After this video, book confession. Start there. Leadership is not micromanaging what brand of pasta she buys. Leadership is about mission. Where is this family going? Spiritually, financially, practically. If she doesn't know the mission, your leadership will feel random and arbitrary. So sit down with her in a calm moment and say something like, look, I want to talk about where we're going as a family. As a Catholic man, I believe I'm responsible to set the direction. But I want your input because we're one flesh and I value your wisdom. Here's how I see our priorities for the next few years. Then talk about prayer and sacraments, debt and savings, work decisions, schoolings, how many evenings you want as family time, what you both want for the children. You listen, you adjust, you don't bark orders, but you also don't hand everything back to her. You hold the frame of being responsible for the final direction. When she sees there's a clear mission, many controlling decisions suddenly start to make sense. It's not he's randomly saying no. It's he's protecting what he told me our mission is. And that's something I value and I'm excited about. Very different. If right now your wife has no idea what your family mission is, that's an action step waiting for you this week. Perhaps you don't know what your family mission is, and you're asking her to follow you when you don't know where you're going yourself. So what do you actually say when she says you're controlling? Let's get very practical. You set a boundary. You make a call. She says, you're just being controlling. You want to dominate me. What do? Option A, raise your voice, argue, quote St. Paul at volume 10. Option B, back down immediately to make the discomfort stop. Both options teach her that your leadership is driven by emotion, not by God. Instead, you stay calm and slow things down. You say, when you say controlling, what exactly do you mean? Then you listen. Maybe you'll discover you really were making a petty rule out of impatience. If so, repent. All right, you're right. I was being harsh. I'm sorry. That's not the kind of leader I want to be. That builds trust. Or you'll discover that what she calls controlling is you saying no to something that objectively harms the family. Massive debt, toxic media, opposite sex friendships, kids with zero structure. In that case, you can use this sentence. I hear that this feels controlling. From my side, I see it as protecting our marriage, our children, our finances. As your husband, I believe I have a duty before God to make this call. I'm happy to hear your concerns and look for a better way, but I can't drop this responsibility just because it feels uncomfortable. Firm, calm, grounded in duty, not ego. That's what Catholic headship sounds like in practice. If you've ever frozen when she said you're controlling, rewind this section later and write that sentence down. Use it. Now, Catholic headship includes boundaries. If everything is negotiable, you're not leading. But boundaries must be rooted in charity, not wounded pride. For example, no screaming abuse in front of the children. No undermining each other in front of the children. No secret credit cards destroying the finances. No opposite sex relationships that undercut our marriage. You don't need to rant. You can say, I love you. I want a holy, peaceful home. Because of that, I'm not willing to have X behavior in our marriage anymore. If things get heated, I'm going to call a pause and we can come back to it when we're both calmer. And then you follow through, not to punish her, not to win, but because your job as head is to guard the peace of the home. If you keep talking when both of you are emotionally flooded and raging, you're no longer leading. You're just being another combatant. Christ doesn't compete with his bride in hysteria. He stays steady. That's your model. Ask yourself, would my children say dad brings peace into the room or dad brings chaos? That's a brutal but useful test. Some of you who are listening to this are thinking, well, this all makes sense, but my situation is a complete mess. We've got years of resentment, serious sins, maybe trauma, maybe threats of separation. If I try to lead, it explodes. In those cases, you probably need outside help. First, a solid priest who actually believes what the church teaches about marriage, not someone who tells you headship is abusive. Second, brotherhood and structure. So you're not trying to white knuckle this alone. That's why we created Patriarchy.com. Inside, I walk you step by step through Catholic headship in the modern world, how to lead without being a tyrant, how to set boundaries without losing charity, how to handle conflict without losing frame. We cover money, sex, kids, discipline, prayer, all through a Catholic lens. You also get access to NolanBot, our AI marriage coach trained on my coaching calls. You can message it 24/7 on WhatsApp and get help for your exact situation. In your own words, any time of day. So if you're tired of bouncing between Tyrant and Doormat and you want to learn how to lead like a Catholic man, click the link in the description to join Patriarchy School. Before you go, I'd like you to do one thing to help other men. In the comments, answer this. Have you ever been called controlling for trying to lead? What happened? You can keep it general if your situation is delicate. Your comment might be exactly what another Catholic husband needs to see today, to realize he's not alone, he's not crazy, and there is a Catholic way forward. Thanks for watching. Be her leader, not her rival. I'll see you in the next video.